I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
It begins in Los Angeles with an unnamed homeless man who's been riding the rails. Not as what they call one of the working poor and has come to downtown LA looking for a job during the economic crisis. He visits an employment office, but it doesn't matter his qualifications as nobody's hiring, so Nada goes wandering around town. A blind street preacher goes on about the upper class getting replaced by demons, but Nada dismisses his message and avoids any authority like the plague. That night he sleeps with a group of real homeless who were paid with warm food and money by the director to keep this scene authentic. The next day Nada gets some work on a construction site who don't just hand out jobs to anybody, but how could you say no to this shovel work? One of the workers overhears the new guys looking for somewhere to sleep tonight, so after work Frank brings him to the local shanty town where he stays. They have a warm meal at the soup kitchen and we hear that Frank's here working to send money back to his wife and kids in Detroit. He says that the aim of the game is survival, but Nada still believes in the American dream and that one day his hard work will pay off. Spending the night watching television with some local known only as the Drifter. The broadcast is suddenly interrupted by conspiracy theorists rambling about powerful beings sedating the rest of the population. He says almost bar for bar what the preacher was going on about, and at 4 in the morning Nada notices people acting shifty at the small church across the street. These people spend all night complaining that the TV is giving them headaches, but they still just sit there staring at it until sunrise. When Nada confronts Gilbert in the morning, he claims that it was only choir practice, so we decide to do some investigating for ourselves. Sneaking in through the back door, Nada discovers that the church is a front for a sunglass factory while the choir singing is a recording. He overhears Gilbert talking about distributing the shades across the city when Nada locates a secret compartment containing their main supply. The blind preacher catches him snooping around, but upon feeling that he has rough hands offers him a pair of sunglasses to quote see the revolution. Nada turns down the generous offer and returns to the shanty town to continue watching their suspicious operation from a distance. Frank fails to talk him out of getting involved while the church folk use the dark sunglasses to nervously watch a helicopter circling above. Having sat there all night, Nada witnesses the chopper return with a large police force, causing all of the revolutionaries to scatter. Gilbert helps the preacher across the street before the cops raid their headquarters, but they aren't safe at the shantytown either. Another group arrive with bulldozers and wipe out all the shelters with the people still inside while officers round up the stragglers. Nada witnesses them beating the preacher to death alongside the Drifter before taking up shelter in an abandoned building for the night. The next day everyone returns to the site to go through the remains of their homes while Nada checks out the church to find it already emptied out. He finds one of the boxes left behind in the secret compartment and smuggles it away from the police to check what's inside. Hoping to find something valuable, he's disappointed that it only contains dozens of the cheap plastic sunglasses called Hoffman lenses. He takes a pair for himself and hides the rest in a trash can before walking down Main Street and putting them on for the first time. Billboards now display consumerist propaganda telling humans to fall in line, while without the glasses Nada just sees basic adverts. At a newsstand, subliminal messages on all of the magazines tell humans not to question authority and continue behaving docile. A man walks up with a strikingly ghoulish appearance, though without the lenses he just looks like any old businessman. Nada's staring's a bit overboard, but the man doesn't know that his identity's been revealed and purchases a paper with cash reading "This is your God." As he wanders around, Nada notices that all the people appearing this way are the wealthy, while middle class and below still look like humans. In a local grocery store, one of these ghouls talks about getting promoted while his human co-worker complains about being looked over. When Nada insults one's hideous appearance, she speaks into her wristwatch and about half the shop alert the authorities that he can see their faces. Nada nervously leaves but gets dragged into an alley by two officers who look just as ugly as they do without the glasses on. Aware that they intend to kill him, Nada fights them off and is forced to shoot them both to defend himself as they go down just like humans. He steals the cops' weapons and enters the nearby bank, which is filled with the wealthy, so naturally they're all ghouls. Nada opens fire, killing everyone that doesn't look human except for one humanoid who uses a dial on his wristwatch to disappear. To everybody else it just looks like Nada's a madman on a shooting spree, so police arrive and he's forced to flee out the back door. In the alleyway, one rookie officer appears human, so he's allowed to live by Nada, who destroys a security drone that only appears with the glasses on. He takes shelter in a parking garage where he forces the stranger Holly to sneak him out in her car since he can see that she isn't one of them. They drive to her house in the Hollywood Hills where Nada tries to convince her about the invasion, but she just thinks he's crazy. She's an assistant director at a local television station and doesn't want to try on the sunglasses, so Nada begins rambling about the signals from the TV. When he lets his guard down, she smacks him over the head with a wine bottle and he goes flying out the window and down the hill. He picks himself up and recovers beneath the neighbor's stilted home before realizing that he dropped the sunglasses at Holly's. She doesn't put them on and instead calls the police, so Nada leaves them there and walks all the way across town to get another set. He retrieves them from the back of a garbage truck that almost drives away with the whole box and receives his week's pay from Frank. Seeing that he's human, Nada tries to convince him to put on the sunglasses, but Frank refuses, not wanting to get involved with the mass murderer. They get into a fist fight as Nada's determined to convince him of the truth while Frank just thinks this is some crazy dude attacking him. It goes back and forth in a 5-minute fight scene that John Carpenter was so impressed with that he left the whole thing in. Supposedly the only punches that they pulled during filming were to the face and groin in this brawl that almost sees Frank win. But Nada's never going to stop until he forcefully puts the glasses on Frank and drags him in front of the humanoids. He sees their confused, ghoulish faces looking back at him, so now we only have about another 3 million people in the LA area to convince. Both adorned with their Hoffman lenses check into a hotel, and Frank's told not to wear them for too long or they'll give you a headache. They argue about what they'll do next and come up with the plan of getting in contact with the church group if any are still alive. That night we learn that Nada ran away from home as a kid because of his abusive father and wonders how much of our behavior is influenced by the ghouls. They end up getting in contact with the still living Gilbert, who tells his fellow Earthlings about a meeting tonight at a local community center. It's all very hush-hush, and dozens of citizens gather who already know about the invasion and want to fight back against the bug-eyed threat. They talk about the ghouls being an alien race responsible for carbon emissions as they're turning our atmosphere into that of their home planets. The ghouls camouflage themselves with a signal being sent out from the television, which is why humans aren't able to see their true faces. The Hoffman sunglasses, named after the creator of LSD, were made to disrupt the signal frequency and see through the alien's illusion. They're now also available in contact lenses, making it easier for the actors moving forward, but doesn't look as cool. During the meeting with the resistance, Holly walks in claiming to believe Nada's story, as I guess she tried on the glasses. She's just about to apologize for nearly murdering our lead actor when the side of the building blows up as the location is raided by the police. Most of these officers are humans receiving large paychecks to keep their mouths shut and shoot anybody that the aliens tell them. The resistance members like Gil are shot dead while some flee outside, like Holly, who just wanders out of the movie to return later. Frank and Nada get pinned down in an alleyway where the rest of the people with them get mowed down mercilessly. Attempting to use one of the watches to get away like the alien in the bank, it malfunctions and opens a portal in the ground. The two leap inside just before it closes and find themselves in a network of underground tunnels containing alien signwriting. They avoid the guards talking about the raid that just took place and find the hallways all connect various parts of the alien society. At a banquet, the speaker thanks their human collaborators and says that by the year 2025 all of Earth will be part of their powerful alliance. The two run into the Drifter, all cleaned up and collaborating with the visitors during their multi-dimensional expansion. Thinking that they've been recruited like himself, the Drifter shows them around the facility, starting with the spaceport. It shoots distant travelers across the galaxy to their home planets with the use of gravitation and light particles or something like that. The Drifter then takes them to the underground studio and the source of the alien signal that they beam into the minds of the population. It isn't explained how the Drifter even got them this far, but his pull with the soldiers runs out, so Nada and Frank just shoot them instead. Intending to find a way to cut the broadcast, the Drifter argues that if they join the alien race they get to be on the winning side for once. Nada and Frank aren't willing to sell out humanity, so when they get distracted by a guard, the Drifter uses a watch to teleport away. Arming themselves with the soldiers' weapons, the two go scorched earth on the studio, mowing down anyone they cross with faces that only a mother could love. All of the office workers are humans, so they bypass them and locate Holly, who told Nada she worked at this television studio earlier. They get her to show them the way to the rooftop to shut down the signal and make the world aware that the aliens exist. As they fight their way up the stairs, Nada expects Frank to be right behind him, but Holly pulls out a gun and puts one in his temple. Reaching the dish broadcasting the signal, Nada turns around to have Holly pointing her gun at him as she's yet another human collaborator. This explains why the aliens showed up at the meeting right after she arrived, and a police helicopter orders Nada to step away from the broadcast. Aware that he isn't going to survive this even if he surrenders, Nada pulls a spare gun from his sleeve and shoots Holly dead. He then spins around and empties his magazine into the antenna just as he's fatally shot by the ghoul on the chopper. Having succeeded in his mission, Nada gives the aliens one final limp middle finger that even the actor wished looked more assertive. The signal that has been hypnotizing the population is brought down, and all of the aliens are now suddenly visible among the humans. The final scene gives us various ghouls in compromising positions as the war for the world begins, led by a homeless man called Nada. And the movie ends.